Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour, South Korea and the US hold joint special operations. The exercises amid high tensions on the Korean peninsula following Pyongyang's missile launches. US announces multinational protection force for Red Sea and Gulf of Aden after Houthi attacks on commercial shipping. Israel thanks the US for the Red Sea initiative. Both houses of the Indian Parliament witness adjournments and a ruckus over the security breach incident and the suspension of some MPs disrupting the House. India to take on South Africa in the second ODI of the three-match series. All eyes on Arshdeep and Avesh after their heroics in the first match. India's parliament faced a ruckus over the issue of the security breach incident as well as the suspension of certain MPs who were disrupting the House. Both houses witnessed adjournments. Members of the opposition held protests in front of Mahatma Gandhi's statue inside parliament premises against the suspension. The MPs who have been suspended, they've been suspended for the remainder of the ongoing winter session of parliament. And Vikas Sarthi is now joining us with more on this from New Delhi. Vikas, are either houses of parliament likely to conduct any regular business?
Well, Mark, it seems there's some audio problem. I cannot hear you properly, but let me tell you what happened just a few minutes back in the Lok Sabha, that despite the request from the speaker since morning that opposition MP should not bring any kind of placard and they must ensure that they should not get inside the well of the House. Opposition MPs were again bringing placard and they were shouting slogans just near the chair. And after the frequent reminders, when the opposition MPs didn't change their stand in the House, there was a resolution, there was a motion introduced by the government that these members should be suspended immediately from the remaining part of the session, and later on. At least 49 MPs have been suspended so far today itself, and if you include the previous suspension earlier, 14 MPs were suspended from the Lok Sabha. So the number of suspended MPs in the Lok Sabha has reached 95, and we have seen that similar kind of disciplinary action in the Rajya Sabha as well, though as of now the chairman is trying to ensure that Rajya Sabha functions smoothly. But again, the opposition MPs are creating ruckus in the parliament. They are shouting slogan, and despite the several reminders, placard is still being brought inside the House as well.
Indeed. Also, because what is otherwise on the agenda for today's session in terms of business?
Right, Mark. So very important bills have been lined up before the parliament. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, and the third bill, which is called the Bharatiya Sakshya Bill 2023. These three bills are very important, and these bills are to be taken up for consideration in the lower house. It was expected that there will be a 15-hour-long discussion on these three bills, and the discussion will take place simultaneously on all three bills. But since so many members have been suspended, the discussion may be cut short, and once the proceedings starts in the Lok Sabha, which was expected at 2 p.m. We will be able to know whether these bills are being taken up for discussion or not. Right now, these three bills are pending for the Lok Sabha, and as far as the Rajya Sabha is concerned, appropriation bill number 3 and number 4 for 2023, these two bills were expected to be discussed and to be returned to the Lok Sabha as well. But again, Mark, disruption is being witnessed in both the houses despite the frequent reminders from the chair.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Vikas Sarthi, for that update from the Indian Parliament. The BJP Parliamentary Party meeting was held in the Parliament Library building, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, the party President JP Nadda, they were in attendance. Speaking to news persons, the Union Minister Prahlad Joshi said that the Prime Minister spoke about Parliament security breach incident, and he said that those who believe in democracy should have condemned this incident, but some parties are speaking in a language of support, which is more dangerous than the incident itself. The Government of India has made masks mandatory for people over 60 years of age, those with heart and kidney diseases, and the ones with fever, phlegm, as well as colds. This is all amid the JN1 subvariant scare of COVID, with 1,828 cases which are active and 1 death related to the JN1 variant. The situation is under control. A nationwide advisory has been issued to the states in lieu of this surge in COVID-19 cases. The government has called for maintaining a state of constant vigil. The states have been advised to ensure adequate testing. India's Health Minister, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, will review the situation on the 20th of December, and he is going to do so with the health ministers as well as chief secretaries of the states and union territories. India's Union Minister Bhupendra Yadav addressed the media on the global rise of the country, where he recounted India's achievements on the global scale. Yadav said that the country was becoming popular as a manufacturing destination for many companies, while India's GDP has remained steadfast at a good rate.
भारत का जो GDP का फोरकास्ट है, उसका जो विस्तार है, वो 6.3%। आज डिजिटल क्रांति में जो लेटेस्ट आईफोन 15 है, वो एप्पल ने उसका असेंबलिंग के लिए भारत को अपना स्थान के रूप में किया है। ताइवान की भी जो बड़ी कंपनी है फॉक्सकॉम, उन्होंने भी, और जापान की कंपनी ने भी भारत को एक नया मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग डेस्टिनेशन के रूप में न केवल चिन्हित किया बल्कि आगे बढ़ाने की बात की है।
The minister credited the rise of India on the global scale to the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he said that India in the year 2047 will become the greatest version of itself.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की लीडरशिप में आज भारत दुनिया की 5वीं अर्थव्यवस्था बड़ी बना, तीसरी बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनने की ओर जा रहा है। ये इस बात को बताता है कि आज पूरे देश भर में जो हम विकसित भारत की संकल्प यात्रा निकाल रहे हैं, वास्तव में इस अभियान का जो सबसे बड़ा मूल लक्ष्य है कि भारत ने अपनी बुनियादी सुविधाओं को आगे बढ़ाते हुए विकास के जिस लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त किया है 2047 में, वो भारत दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा भारत बनेगा।
The total footfall has crossed 1 crore in over 65,300 Viksit Bharat health camps. More than 8.4 million Ayushman cards were created at the camps, and more than 3.64 million people were screened for tuberculosis, and over 260,000 were referred to the higher public health facilities. Over 380,000 people screened for sickle cell disease, and more than 18,000 referred to higher public health facilities. The Indian Embassy in Riyadh celebrated the Samskirotsav as part of the Pravasi Parichay. This happened in November, and this entire program was in Sanskrit, and it also recognized the efforts of the Indian community in keeping this ancient language of India alive, the ancient wisdom, civilization, history, as well as traditions. The Indian ambassador there, Suhail Ajaz Khan, spoke about the event and its importance in strengthening bilateral relations between India and Saudi Arabia.
We have a very large Indian community in Saudi Arabia, and the embassy is constantly working with the Indian community for promotion of our culture and our traditions and civilization and values. One of the activities that embassy has been doing along with the Indian community here is promotion of Sanskrit language. We have a group of Sanskrit language enthusiasts here who are promoting the teaching of Sanskrit language among the other community members in association with Prasar Bharati. The embassy is always supporting such efforts. In recognition of these efforts of the Indian community to keep the language of India's ancient wisdom, civilization, and history alive in the kingdom, we decided to organize Sanskrit Utsav festival as part of our Diaspora Cultural Week, Pravasi Parichay, on November 5th. In the end, I'll end with a shlok. Bhashasu Mukhya Madhura Divya Girvan Bharati Tasyahi Kavyam Madhuram Tasma Dapi Subhashitam. Meaning, Sanskrit, the language of God, is the most beautiful language.
Well, the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin will meet the Chinese President Xi Jinping during a visit to China on December 19 to 20. Mishustin will hold talks with the Chinese Premier Li Qiang, and this is the latest in a series of exchanges between Moscow and Beijing, which is aimed at bolstering no-limits partnership between the two countries. Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin is due in China for a two-day visit. He will hold negotiations with his Chinese counterpart and China's President Xi Jinping. The talks in China will focus on extending trade and economic partnership between the two countries, but also the declared no-limits partnership, strategic cooperation, humanitarian and interregional exchanges. Regular meetings between Chinese and Russian heads of government are seen as a vital mechanism for promoting cooperation between the two countries in various fields. Russian Cabinet of Ministers added that a joint communique will be adopted as a result of the talks in Beijing, and several documents will be signed as well. According to the Russian officials, ties between Moscow and Beijing have reached unprecedentedly high levels. In 2023, trade turnover is expected to exceed $200 billion, a very important benchmark. And 90% of bilateral transactions are carried out in national currencies. The two countries have increased cooperation in the energy sphere as well, with Russia seeking new partnerships after Western sanctions were imposed in 2022. Dasha Chernyshova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
Well, we're going to take a short break. Do stay with us.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome to Jaipur.
The U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin visited the U.S. Navy's headquarters in the Middle East. Austin announced the creation of a multinational operation to safeguard commerce in the Red Sea. The measure comes following a series of missile and drone attacks by Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis. The Operation Prosperity Guardian has been welcomed by Israel, and countries identified by the U.S. to join this security group include the U.K., Canada, France, Bahrain, Norway and Spain. Well, DD India's Kate Fisher now gives us more from Washington.
The Houthis have warned against sailing in the Red Sea, saying they're attacking vessels with links to Israel in protest at its military offensive against Hamas in Gaza. On Monday, the US said that the warship, the USS Carney, responded to a distress call from a commercial vessel after it was attacked by multiple projectiles in the southern Red Sea. The Houthis claimed responsibility and said they also attacked another ship, saying that both were linked to Israel. The Houthis warned that no harm will be dealt to ships except for those heading for Israeli ports. But the ship's owner, Inventor Chemical Tankers, said that there is no Israeli link in the ownership, technical management or cargo of the vessel. Until now, the White House has been reluctant to respond militarily for fear of provoking Iran, but an uptick in attacks could change that.
In the Red Sea, we're leading a multinational maritime task force to uphold the bedrock principle of freedom of navigation. Iran's support for Houthi attacks on commercial vessels must stop.
Millions of barrels of oil pass through the Red Sea daily. And reports in US media suggest that the Biden administration is weighing its military options and has moved the Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group from the Persian Gulf into the Gulf of Aden, just off the coast of Yemen. It's also said to be considering shoring up protections for commercial ships alongside members of the Combined Maritime Forces, which is a multinational naval task force charged with protecting commercial shipping in the Red Sea. In recent months, the US has responded to attacks by launching strikes against weapons depots and storage facilities used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its proxy militia groups in eastern Syria and Iraq. Kate Fisher in Washington reporting for DD India.
South Korea started joint special military operations, these exercises with the U.S. on Tuesday amid high tensions on the Korean peninsula following Pyongyang's missile launches. The drills, which began on Monday, took place at various special war school training sites in the country and will continue for 2 weeks. North Korea on Tuesday said that it had tested the newest Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile on Monday to gauge the war readiness of its nuclear force against mounting U.S. hostility as Washington and its allies began this operation. They're operating a real-time missile data sharing system. The South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, in a statement, has warned Pyongyang against its provocation on Tuesday. This comes after North Korea's launch of the intercontinental ballistic missile a day prior.
The North Korean regime will come to realize such provocations will only bring greater pain to itself. And regarding North Korea's missiles launched this time, the smooth operation of the information sharing systems has been confirmed. With a recent meeting of the South Korea-US Nuclear Consultative Group held in Washington last week, the establishment of a comprehensive extended deterrence regime between the US and South Korea is imminent. It signifies the substantive realization of a robust nuclear-based alliance between the two countries.
We're now joined by DD India correspondent Andrew Wood, who is joining us from Hong Kong with more on this story. Well, Andrew, South Korea started these joint special military exercises with the U.S. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Korean special forces, South Korean special forces,
are working with members of the Green Berets from America and also, sorry, excuse me, from America, other special forces, in order to learn more, apparently, about urban conflict, what it's like working inside, basically a city, trying to fight within a city or a town, and learning those techniques. And of course, it's very tempting to think that this has been suddenly announced in reaction to what North Korea has been doing over the past 36 hours, namely launching ballistic missiles, test firing them, and so on. But I suspect that this was planned many weeks, even months in advance, and that it may have been that they just didn't want, that they weren't going to announce it publicly, that it would have happened anyway. But because of North Korea's launches of these missiles, that it decided it would be a good idea perhaps to publicize it, to show how America and South Korea are working together and are allies and support each other.
And is there any update on the tensions going higher, especially with this counter move by South Korea? Is North Korea likely to continue, with its missile launches?
I don't think there's anything that can stop North Korea from continuing with missile launches, other than problems within North Korea, if Kim Jong-un suddenly decides that it's not a good idea to test them anymore. The point is with ballistic missiles and rockets is they're very complicated. You need to test them a lot in order to have confidence that they're going to work. And it's a mixed, there's a mixed blessing if North Korea launches a ballistic missile. On the one hand, the more missiles it launches, the more it learns about how reliable they are and what problems they might have. On the other hand, though, every time that North Korea launches a ballistic missile, that means it's got one less ballistic missile that it could launch if things turned nasty. That's one less ballistic missile it could launch, perhaps with some form of nuclear warhead or other warhead on the top. And don't forget, these latest Hwasong 14 make or mark of missiles are said to be, according to North Korea, able to fly 15,000 kilometers, which means they could quite easily reach Washington in the United States or New York.
Indeed, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Andrew Wood, with that update from Hong Kong. An earthquake of 6.2 magnitude jolted northwest China around midnight on Tuesday, killing at least 118 people and injuring over 397. Rescue and relief efforts are underway to free trapped residents after the deadly earthquake. The number of missing people in the quake's aftermath remains unknown. A working group has been dispatched to assess the impact of the disaster. Several military as well as police personnel were engaged in the rescue work. Thousands of homes were either damaged or have collapsed because of the severe tremors. Now, as the disaster area is in the high altitude region where the weather is cold, rescue efforts are, being hampered a little bit. And there are also concerns about secondary disasters caused by factors beyond the quake.
Now a total of 19 medical rescue teams at provincial, prefecture and county levels have arrived in the region to carry out medical treatment operations, consisting of 386 members and 99 ambulances. The provincial infection prevention and control team has arrived in the affected area and is ready to conduct epidemic prevention work.
The U.S. fertilizer company Mosaic Moss.N on Monday rerouted a couple of U.S.-bound fertilizer shipments around the Cape of Good Hope rather than through the Red Sea amid Houthi terrorist attacks on ships in the region. Yemen's Houthi movement attacked 2 commercial ships in the Red Sea with naval drones on Monday. The Houthis say that they have been attacking vessels in the Red Sea with links to Israel in protest against its military offensive against Hamas in Gaza. And they have warned against sailing towards the area, prompting company shipments to be rerouted. Oil prices are showing, fresh gains after 7 weeks of declines. This is amid pressure on the trade in view of the increased attacks on vessels in the sea zone. So oil rose nearly 2% on Monday as investors were worried about disruptions to maritime trade and supply costs after the Iran-aligned Yemen Houthi militant group attacked ships in the Red Sea. Oil prices were higher on Monday, with international benchmark Brent trading at 2.6%, almost $79 a barrel. It's day 74 of the Israel-Hamas conflict, and on your screen is a 1-minute video message posted by the Hamas terrorists on Monday, and it shows 3 elderly Israeli hostages pleading for their release. An old man seated in the middle of the 2 others around the same age described their harsh living conditions, and he said that their generation built the foundation and the creation of Israel and started the idea of military, and thus urged the government not to leave them abandoned. The Israeli military condemned the video released by Hamas, describing it as a criminal terrorist attack. A criminal terrorist one, in fact.
The video that Hamas released in the past hour is a criminal terror video. It testifies to Hamas' cruelty towards innocent, very elderly civilians who are in need of medical care. The world must act in order to deliver medical aid and check on the state of the hostages. We are morally obliged to do every and all the efforts in order to bring the hostages back home. Our heart is with all hostages and their families.
Shifting focus now, time is running out for U.S. lawmakers to clinch a border security deal needed to unlock more funding for Ukraine before the Congress breaks for the holiday. Well, senators remain deadlocked as hardline Republicans demand immigration reform before they open the financial spigots. Tony Waterman reports.
Talks ramped up on Monday after a small bipartisan group of senators and White House representatives worked through the weekend trying to hammer out this deal to replenish $110 billion in military aid to U.S. allies. But lawmakers have not yet been able to agree on a framework. The aid money itself is not really the issue here. There is broad bipartisan support for the $60 billion that would go to Ukraine and the $14 billion that would go to Israel to help them in their respective war efforts. But that money is being held up by Republicans who say their vote hinges on U.S. immigration reform. They want tougher rules put in place to help limit migration flows after a record number of border crossings in the past couple of years. Some Senate Republicans have suggested migrants prove they were denied asylum in at least one other country along their route to the U.S. Others want to raise the bar for migrants to prove their lives were in danger in their home countries. These are non-starters for many Democrats, although President Joe Biden has said he's willing to make significant compromises on the border in order to get this deal done. Any agreement, though, would have to pass both chambers of Congress, and the House has already gone home for the holidays, meaning it will take a Christmas miracle to get this deal done before next year. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
A series of volcano eruptions took place in southwestern Iceland. They spewed lava and smoke after weeks of intense earthquake activity. Authorities have evacuated nearly 4,000 people from the northern region, the area which had recently witnessed increased quake activities. National police have also been put on alert. The country's civil defense warned locals to keep away from the area. A heavy blaze of bushfires that continues as well to linger in northwest Australia. The rising heat from these bushfires has created massive smoke-infused thunderstorms, drying out hundreds of kilometers south from roughly 100,000 of hectares burning across the state's north. Residents are being advised to evacuate because of the massive bushfires. Let's take a look now at other stories making the news around the world. Protesters set a train on fire in Bangladesh on Tuesday. The blaze left at least 4 people dead. The incident comes as the country deals with a nationwide strike called by the opposition to press its demand for the government to resign ahead of an election next month. Shelters in Port Sudan City are facing a crisis as, you know, people there, they struggle to accommodate large numbers of refugees amid a severe shortage of supplies as well as violent clashes that have continued for the 9th month. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, a conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces, this conflict has uprooted over 6.7 million people in Sudan. A wall of Korea's centuries-old Gyeongbokgung Palace has been vandalized. Now, a singer's name and an album were spray painted onto this, spanning 3 meters in length and 1.8 meters in height. The suspect, a man in his 20s, turned himself in to the police just a day after committing the crime on Monday. Strawberry farmers in Japan are gearing up for the end of the year's festivities as they prepare orders from all over the country. The growers pick out the best fruit by hand and arrange it into dedicated baskets. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The International Monetary Fund, in a recent report, has observed that the Indian economy showed robust growth over the past year and the macroeconomic factors are quite strong. The Asia-Pacific markets are showing mixed response as the Bank of Japan concludes a policy meeting on Tuesday in which members are expected to take a call on interest rates. Heavy rains lash South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, resulting in waterlogging in several parts of the state.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. South Korea and the US hold joint special operations exercises amid high tensions on the Korean peninsula following Pyongyang's missile launches. The US announces multinational protection force for the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden after Houthi attacks on commercial shipping. Israel thanks the US for the Red Sea initiative. India to take on South Africa in the second ODI of the 3-match series. All eyes on Arshdeep and Avesh after their heroics in the first match. India's President Draupadi Murmu graced the centenary celebrations of the public school of Hyderabad in India's Hyderabad on Tuesday. And while addressing the occasion, the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, called for overall development of students and their need to focus on learning life skills. The President also emphasized on students being able to engage themselves in various skill development exercises.
हैदराबाद पब्लिक स्कूल जैसे संस्थान विद्यार्थियों पर ऐसा प्रभाव डालते हैं जो उन्हें जीवन के विभिन्न पड़ाव पर आगे बढ़ने और निर्णय लेने में मदद करते हैं। एक प्रसन्नता की बात है कि हैदराबाद पब्लिक स्कूल में एकेडमिक अचीवमेंट्स के अलावा चरित्र निर्माण पर भी जोर दिया जाता है।
Moving on now, the heavy rains that have lashed the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu on Tuesday have resulted in waterlogging in several parts of the state. The Weather Department has predicted more heavy rains, very heavy rains over Tamil Nadu and other South Indian state, the state of Kerala, during the next 2 to 3 days. In fact, earlier 3 people had been killed due to the extreme heavy rainfall. The Weather Department has also issued a red alert, in fact, in 4 of the most affected districts of the state. Transportation services have been impacted. Train, bus and flight services have been suspended in the region. The Indian Air Force, the Army and other rescue teams are conducting relief operations in Tamil Nadu because of the unprecedented rains in the last 24 hours. The Indian Air Force helicopters are deploying, they've been deployed there for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. 4 passengers, including a pregnant woman and a baby aged 1.5 years, were taken to safety they were taken to safety to Nagpur. And Anbarasan joins us now with more from Tirunelveli in Tamil Nadu. With more on this, I can see that you're standing right in the middle of, a huge pile of a flood of water, a puddle of water. How are people dealing with this?
After the heavy rainfall in the southern districts of Tirunelveli, Thoothukudi and Kanyakumari and Tenkasi, there is an unprecedented rain, and rain level also registered in Thoothukudi as 96 centimeters. So particularly in Tirunelveli, the district headquarters, the town, which has water has been logged in most of the cities, and the water in the Tamirabarni river, the river flows from the Western Ghat towards Bay of Bengal. It's heavily flooded, and 1 lakh cubic water has been released from the various dams, including Manimuttar Dam and also from the Servala Dam. So due to that, the water has been flooded over the parts of Tirunelveli town, and now we are standing near the Tirunelveli railway junction, where you can see that there is a water heavily logged here, and the people, mostly who are in the bank shores of Tamirabarni river, the normal life has been affected, and the rescue and relief work has been happening, and the central government and state government agencies, particularly the forces, Coast Guard and Army and Navy, and they are doing as much as their work to rescue the people. And particularly there is a Sri Vaikundam, the Chennai-Tiruchendur Express, which has been stopped there due to the train, due to the flooding in the railway station, and also the vast away of the lines. So around 800 people are stranded there yesterday, and 300 people are rescued yesterday, and still 500 people are stranded. And from Nagpur there is a helicopter, and around 6 helicopters from the Indian Air Force has been deployed in southern districts to rescue, and also there is a air dropping of food to the passengers who all are stranded in the Sri Vaikundam railway station. And the Chief Minister M.K. Stalin also planning to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi today to brief about the flooding situation in the southern districts of Tamil Nadu.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Anbarasan, for that comprehensive report about the flooding situation in Tamil Nadu. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will interact with participants of the grand finale of the Smart India Hackathon. It's going to happen today via video conferencing. This event aims to crack the complex cases and also deal with the increased instances of cybersecurity breaches. This hackathon is going to take place at 48 nodal centers across the country. The Smart India Hackathon is a nationwide initiative. It provides students a platform to solve the pressing problems of the ministries and departments of the government, industries and other organizations. This year, in fact, the grand finale of the SIH is being held from the 19th to the 23rd of December. There are over 12,000 participants, more than 2,500 mentors taking part in the grand finale. More than 50,000 ideas actually have already been received from 44,000 teams, and the number is almost 7 times higher than what happened in the first edition of the hackathon. So this year, a total of 12,800 and, 1,282 teams have been shortlisted. 1,282 teams have been shortlisted. urging all to join this hackathon and support the Yuva Shakti, Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted. At 9:30 p.m. today, I look forward to joining the pioneering innovators at the Smart India Hackathon 2023, a much-awaited program. I'm delighted to learn about the record innovations our youth are making, whose outcomes will significantly enhance India's progress journey. I strongly urge you to join the program and support our Yuva Shakti. The Asia-Pacific markets are showing mixed trends as the Bank of Japan concludes a policy meeting on Tuesday in which members are expected to take a call on rates. They have been assessing whether economic conditions are falling into place for the bank to begin what's called unwinding ultra-loose monetary settings. The BOJ Governor Kazuo Ueda is expected to brief the media on this decision. That's going to happen at around 6:30 a.m. GMT, 6:30 a.m. GOT, or 12 noon Indian Standard Time. That must have happened already, but we'll get you an update on that. Investors and market observers expect the Bank of Japan to stick with its negative interest rate policy. This is according to a Reuters poll of economists. Investors will be watching out for the Bank of Japan's stance on its yield curve control policy. The BOJ currently has a benchmark interest rate of minus 0.1% and is expected to maintain it. Kenya and the European Union, they've signed an economic partnership agreement to boost bilateral trade in goods. The increased investment flows, as well as they're going to contribute to sustainable economic growth. This agreement will grant the East African country their exports duty-free status. It's going to give them that, and also unlimited access to the bloc. Both sides have initialed a draft deal, and this happened in June after 7 months of negotiations. The EU is one of Kenya's biggest export markets. Now, this deal was also approved by the European Union Council last week, and is going to be presented to the parliamentarians of both sides for a ratification, and it's going to then come into force. Morocco's tourism industry looks set for a record year, boosting the wider economy, and also despite the recent earthquake and tourism disruption because of the war in Gaza, tourism as a key source of foreign currency, it accounts for 7% of the country's GDP. The tourism ministry expects to hit 14 million tourists by the year end, and a 3 million rise, that is, from last year, aiming to hit 26 million tourists, that figure, by 2030. Morocco has overcome recent natural disasters as well as other disruptions in tourist incoming traffic, and that caused, in fact, concern for the economy. But with the onset of the winter, hotel and hospitality sector has begun to improve, and it's hoping to give a boost, in fact, to the tourism sector. Let's take a look now at other stories making the news. India's lower house, the Speaker of the lower house, Om Birla, met with a delegation of members of the European Parliament. This happened on Tuesday. The Allahabad High Court in India has dismissed 5 pleas of a mosque committee challenging the civil suits that seek the restoration of a temple at a mosque site. The High Court asked the Varanasi court to complete the hearing within 6 months. The court said that the mosque complex can have either a Muslim character or a Hindu character, and they can't have a dual religious character. Well, India's northern states of Delhi, Punjab and Rajasthan are witnessing a sharp dip in temperature as the cold wave has begun to take grip. And the national capital in Delhi saw a temperature of around 10.8 degrees Celsius. Not that cold for this time of the year, but likely to go down. Jogeshwari caves nestled in India's Mumbai are marvels that add an intriguing touch to the city. Carved nearly 1,500 years ago, these caves They are hidden. They are hidden gems, they are called. They echo the vivid tales of history, as we can see. And still to come here on DD India News Hour, India to take on the Proteas in the second ODI, and India are eyeing a series win, already leading 1-0.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Well, the International Monetary Fund in a recent report has observed that the Indian economy showed robust growth over the past year and the macroeconomic factors are strong. Now, following the conclusion of the 2023 Article 4 consultation with India, the IMF noted that inflation has, on average, moderated, although it remains volatile. Employment has surpassed pre-pandemic level, and while the informal sector continues to dominate, formalization has progressed. The IMF observed that financial sector has been resilient, strongest in several years, and largely unaffected by global financial stress in early 2023. Growth is expected to remain strong, supported by macroeconomic and financial stability. Real GDP is projected to grow at 6.3% in FY 23-24 and FY 24-25. Headline inflation is expected to gradually decline to the target, although it remains volatile due to food price shocks. And to discuss this, we have with us Sanjeev Sanyal, member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Sanyal, for your time and your expertise. What is driving the strong economic performance of the Indian economy?
So let me first say that the IMF's numbers, although very strong by world standards, let me say that given the very recent quarterly numbers, our own assessment that it is going to be even stronger than what they say. So yes, the IMF expects our economy to grow by about 6.3, 6.4%, and that it will contribute 1/6 of world GDP. But our own assessment is that it will be growing at somewhere in the range of 7% this financial year. Yes. So in that sense, it will. We think that we will do even better than what the IMF thinks. Now, what is driving this growth? Well, a lot of factors are driving this growth. There's the services sector is doing reasonably well, but there has been a significant acceleration of the industrial sector recently, which you may be aware of, and also a lot of investment that is happening. So, of course, government investment, but we are also now seeing a significant amount of corporate investment and household investment also coming through. So the combination of industrial growth, investment, infrastructure investment, all of this is driving growth. Where we are not getting too much help, unfortunately, is from exports. Exports are basically flat from last year, and that's unfortunate because, there's little we can do about it given the state of the rest of the world's economy. Unless demand is growing rapidly in our export markets, we can do very little. But it's great that even despite the fact that external markets are not in good condition, we will probably do 7% this year, and hopefully things will improve next year.
That's great. But why is the IMF looking at formalization as an indicator? Does formalization actually improve the output of the informal sector? They have said that the informal sector has contributed greatly to the growth.
Well, formalization is important for multiple reasons, not the least because once you formalize, they become part of the tax net. There's also an improvement in the quality of growth very often because they are properly registered and so on. So there has been over time, not surprisingly, some form of formalization has been going on for quite some time, and this has accelerated in recent times. But let me say that we need to also think of formalization a slightly different way than what we have in the past. So, for example, even the informal sector in multiple ways gets formalized at the margin in important ways. For example, the payments, for example.
Right.
A lot of even small informal firms take their payments now through UPI or QR codes and things like that. Now, in effect, for the purposes of payments and therefore of creating a credit record, they are formal.
Yes.
Even if the activities are otherwise informal. Same thing is happening, for example, in terms of registration and many other ways also they are getting formalized. So this is an important thing to realize that formalization and informalization are a spectrum. It's not like black and white.
Indeed. Mr. Sanyal, you did speak about, the effect of the payment system, UPI and all. The financial sector has come in for praise. But what has the impact been of DPI and the financial inclusion program of the government?
No, I mean, you saw that through the COVID cycle. Yeah. The very fact that we have been able to give, the bulk of our population with an identity and then connected it through the JAM Trinity has allowed a huge amount of, direct payments of various kinds of support. It has also meant that, you can target various schemes into the future, not just today. And so that has been a success and has been recognized so by the rest of the world as well.
You did mention in your first answer that we are growing at 7.7% currently, in fact, in this fiscal year so far. But the IMF has stuck to 6.3%. The World Bank also had stuck to 6.3%. Moody's had said 6.7%. Why are they so conservative about India? I mean, it's pretty clear that India is growing much higher than what they're talking about.
So let me clarify. You're wrong in saying that I'm saying for the full year we'll be at 7.7. It'll be 7.0%.
No, we said 7%. I've said 7.7 for the first half of this year, which is what's come in.
Yeah, 7.7. Yes. Yeah. For the first half, you're 7.7, and the number for the second half is going to be lower. We know that because of the statistical factors that are well known. So the fact that the number will be lower in the next half is not that surprising. But on balance, it will still be 7% for the full year. Why these agencies are coming up with 6.3 and much more conservative numbers, you should ask them.
Okay.
Because we ourselves started, like the RBI started with 6.5 as well. So it's not that we have had this number from the beginning and we are having to scramble around trying to change it. We have in fact been upgrading it as time passes based on the data available. So given the numbers we are generating, you should ask them why they still think we'll grow at 6.3%.
Indeed. Final question on inflation. 2 to 6% is the RBI's target. I mean, we were about 4.87, now we are 5.5. It is hovering closer to the higher side of that 6%, though the finance minister says we are stable. What's your outlook on inflation?
So our target is 2 to 6%. It is not the case that they have to hit 4% every quarter. On average, as long as we are within this 2 to 6% range, we are reasonably comfortable. There will be spikes in vegetable prices from time to time, like tomatoes or something, but there is no systematic long-term inflationary pressures. And of course, as you know, recently international oil prices have also come down. That's only happened very recently, but let's see if it sticks. But if it does, that will also be an additional factor that will bring down inflation.
The stock markets are at all-time highs, and they reflect obviously the underlying strength of the Indian economy. And people looking ahead have predicted that the Indian economy will be the third largest economy by 2030. So in this context, I mean, obviously there's a lot of growth that's expected as well in the stock market. What do you think? I mean, are we crowding in investment?
Look, as a policymaker, I don't get carried away by ups and downs in the stock market. One day it'll go up, one day it'll go down. So I'm pleased that it is on average going up, which is good for wealth creation. But I wouldn't react to any particular data point on stock markets. What I would say is that, yes, we are well on our way to becoming the world's fourth largest economy in about 18 months' time, and the world's third largest economy in about 2 to 3 years' time, around about 3 years' time, I would say. So I think that's quite good in that, it's something that we have been seeing as a re-emergence of India on the global stage as a serious player. Sure, I mean, China and the US are still far ahead, but it will mean that we are now taking, we are now the third biggest player, yes, and by the way, growing the fastest as well. So, yes, which means that our share of world GDP growth will also keep rising. And in this context, let me say that this does not mean that just because we are the world's third largest economy, we have solved all our problems. We are still, on per capita terms, a poor economy. But being a larger economy obviously means we have much more resources. So it provides us whether the tax collection or other resources that we can use to build infrastructure and provide safety nets and so on.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal. Thank you for joining us, member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Now, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for news on the sports front. And in cricket, after India's comprehensive victory in the first ODI, the KL Rahul-led outfit will be facing South Africa in the second ODI at St. George's Park. This is in Gehebra. Well, India is on the brink of a series win for the second time on South African soil. Shreyas Iyer is going to miss this game, unfortunately. He hit a half-century, remember, in the first match. India is riding on a victory on that first ODI with the help of that flawless performance by Arshdeep Singh as well as Avesh Khan. Fantastic bowling by them. And India will be looking to seal the series in this second ODI. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. From all of us here, thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.